Welcome to Project Catalyst, an economic development podcast. I'm Tina Emerson, Chief Marketing Officer here at Maynard Nexsen, and I am joined by my co-host, Tushar Chikhliker. He is the Economic Development Practice Group Leader here at the firm. Good to see you.
Nice to see you, Tina.
So glad to have you here in the office. We have kicked off Project Catalyst in the past couple of months, and we have been fortunate to be joined by leaders in economic development across the Southeast. And today we are honored to be joined by South Carolina Secretary of Commerce, Harry Lightsey. Secretary Lightsey was appointed by Governor Henry McMaster in June 2021. And since his confirmation, he's led the agency's globally competitive recruitment strategy for South Carolina's evolving target industries. Secretary Lightsey served in top executive leadership roles for major corporations across South Carolina and across the country. And the Secretary and Department of Commerce have been longstanding friends with Maynard Nexsen. They are even neighbors across the street. So we are so glad to have you, and thanks for walking over.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here.
Secretary, thank you so much for making time to be with us. You've been in your role now for close to 3 years. Time flies when you're having fun, and I know you've been having fun. The results speak for themselves. In our world, we hear about the State of the Union. The president often provides his State of the Union remarks. Same with the governor. What would you say the state of economic development is in South Carolina right now?
Yeah, so I'd say the state of economic development is great. You know, we were coming off 2022 was our all-time record year with over $10.3 billion of capital investment announced and around 15,000 jobs to our state. 2023 was right there with 2022, not quite as good, but over $9.3 billion of capital investment and around 14,000 jobs announced for our state. So these are two of, by far and away, our best years ever in economic development. In January of this year, we held the governor's first Economic Development Summit, which is hard to believe that it was the first ever, but it is. And we used that occasion to announce our new brand, South Carolina Launch to Legacy. We're excited about that. We also talked a little bit about what we felt like were great strategies going forward, kind of leaning into the future. And so we are really moving into 2024 very aggressively, and everything is going very well for our state.
That's great to hear. And you mentioned Launch to Legacy. It's an absolutely fabulous rebrand. Certainly people in our world are talking about it. And it's a great line from a public, in Tina's world, more of the public relations world. But it's also incredibly substantive if you parse through just three simple words: Launch to Legacy. And again, the history of South Carolina bears that out with the companies that have located here and have flourished here. But why did you decide that it was time to do a rebrand, and what really informed the decision-making process that got us to Launch to Legacy?
Yeah, so it was, first of all, the brand that we had been under, we've been working with for like 11 years. And all of these brands have a shelf life, you know. Plus, the addition is that really the times that we're living in, and you hear this over and over again, are transformative. The world is changing ever more rapidly. We have technologies like artificial intelligence, AI, digitization, robotics, all of these new technologies that are really transforming the business world. And we felt like we wanted to have a brand that really addressed the fact that South Carolina is really ready for this new world that we're moving into.
And how does that stack up against other Southeastern states? Are you seeing that other states are taking on this new way of marketing themselves?
You know, I don't know. We've actually, as part of the rebranding process, it was a very deliberate process. We took about 18 months. We utilized the services of a well-renowned public relations firm based in Bluffton, South Carolina, to help us with this. We did look at brands that economic development departments are using from all over the country. And we really wanted to do something that was distinctive, that stood out. And we felt like we really achieved that with Launch to Legacy. You know, our new logo is a variation, kind of a more updated look, if you will, of our iconic state emblem of the palmetto tree. We've added some color, we've added some motion with arrows. We feel like it really speaks to more of a state that's in motion, that is embracing the future. And so we're very excited about that.
Yeah, the word that comes to mind and word I always like to use is elevate. And it clearly has elevated the brand for South Carolina, really to match certainly what I've seen in my years working in this business, what South Carolina actually is. But to your point, it's aspirational as well. We want to progress our economy into the next generation. And I understand that you and the agency have done a lot of homework on what industry sectors you feel like we should be focusing on. We will always focus on manufacturing in this state, as we should. And I know you would agree with me on that. But are there particular areas that you feel like, as we look forward for the next 10, 15, 20, 30 years, that our state should be focusing on?
Yeah, so just let's kind of go back to the brand and start from there. So the brand, Launch to Legacy, we think really embodies the promise that we have for the state, as you, Tushar, as you referenced. Launch to Legacy. We're going to be your partners to support your business from the moment you're here in our state until you become a legacy partner with us, and that's important. We also wanted to tell the world that when you invest in South Carolina, you're going to grow. You're going to grow as a company, you're going to grow personally, and you're going to grow with your community. We wanted to say that South Carolina is really built for the new economy. And if you're in South Carolina, you can truly work at a place that you love because it's such a beautiful state. We are blessed with a diversity of beautiful areas of our state, from the mountains all the way to the coast and in between. And then finally, what we really wanted to let people know is that South Carolina is the new home for American innovation. So with that being said, as you said, Tushar, South Carolina's economy is the backbone of it is manufacturing, and it always will be. And we will continue to work hard in manufacturing. We feel like we've put some key pieces into some of our key sectors that will enable us to be very competitive in the future for that. But we also wanted to lean into some new areas a little bit that we feel like there's tremendous opportunity for future growth. Those areas are advanced energy, and advanced energy has taken a gigantic leap forward with the designation by the U.S. Department of Commerce of the South Carolina Nexus, or SC Nexus, which is our tech hub. We can talk more about that, but also life sciences. If you think about what's going on in the whole life sciences area with genetics and molecular biology and those new technologies that are being brought to bear, not just in the health world, but in the ag business as well. Those are revolutionary technologies that really play to South Carolina's strengths. Life sciences tech has been our second fastest growing sector for the last several years. And then finally, white collar, higher salary jobs, headquarters, research and development is an area that we really want to stress going forward as well.
And I presume electric vehicles is a part of the discussion going forward. And if so, can you talk a little bit about our focus on that, but also the ecosystem? It's not just the vehicles being made, but everything that sort of spins off of those.
Yeah, that's a great point, Tushar. So, of course, South Carolina has been an automotive powerhouse for years, with certainly some major OEMs that are here in our state already. The announcement of BMW in the early 1990s. They've been here for 30 years now, and their initial investment has grown to an investment of over $18 billion. They employ around 14,000 South Carolinians just at BMW themselves. It's an incredible growth story. When they announced in the mid-1990s, everybody was like, why would a global OEM go to South Carolina? Today, we have over 500 companies in the sector. 75,000 South Carolinians work in the sector, and the automobile industry is undergoing the greatest transformation since the days of Henry Ford, as they move from the gasoline combustion engine to the battery electric vehicle, and that's driving a huge amount of investment. And I think we're seeing that throughout the Southeast in particular. in around the country as well. But in South Carolina, what we're really excited about is just as you mentioned, we've assembled the backbone of a true ecosystem that will take us through the entire life cycle of the battery electric vehicle with the announcements that have been made. Of course, BMW announced at the time the largest investment in the history of the state, $1.7 billion to convert their facility in Greer, South Carolina, to make battery electric vehicles as well as hybrids and gasoline combustion engine vehicles. And then only 2 months later, Redwood Materials announced what is still the largest economic development announcement in the history of the state, with an investment of $3.5 billion to build a lithium-ion battery recycling center. And then we've had other announcements like Cerba Solutions that is also in battery recycling, Albemarle, which is one of the largest lithium mining companies in the world, announced a processing facility in South Carolina. AESC, which is a Japanese battery assembly company, is building a battery assembly plant in Florence, South Carolina, to supply the BMW plant in Greer. And that investment continues to grow even while they're under construction. And so really, if you think about it, we have, as I said, the backbone of the entire life cycle from the beginning of the minerals needed to make batteries here in America, which is critical to our country's security, to not be dependent on other countries for those critical minerals that we need to be competitive in the future. And then to assembling the batteries, to putting them in the vehicles. Scout Motors announced in about a year ago to build their initial home in North America here in right outside of Columbia, South Carolina, a $2 billion announcement. They're going to be revitalizing the iconic Scout brand to create a rugged outdoor battery electric vehicle. We're tremendously excited about that. That is, the whole purpose of the Scout brand is to basically say this is a vehicle that's made in America, for the American market, and we think it's going to be tremendously successful.
And there has been so much movement with the electronic vehicle market, and it seems like it's just kind of snowballed. One success just continues to lead to another. But sitting on your laurels isn't something that you seem to be comfortable doing. So you've employed a lot of interesting recruitment tactics that are kind of outside the box. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the economic development world is incredibly competitive, and it's not. I think it's gone beyond the incentive packages that we all are familiar with. I think all of our states, particularly here in the Southeast, are very competitive in terms of the types and amounts of incentives that they can put on the table for any given project. And so you really have to come up with very unique ways to try to separate yourself and distinguish yourself. For Scout Motors, for example, it was very important to them to see how fast South Carolina could be responsive. We were actually brought into their process very late. And literally, we moved in 60 days faster than many other states had moved over a course of months. And their CEO, Scott Keogh, has said that in particular was very important to them to see how responsive our state was, how well we worked together at both the local and the state and even the federal level to produce results for them. We had a little bit of fun with it, but we wanted to distinguish ourselves. As I said, this is a rugged vehicle, an iconic American vehicle made for America. And so the last opportunity we had to talk to the Scout decision makers, they were coming to Columbia, and for the traditional kind of finale dinner, and it was between us and a very few other sites that they were looking at. We decided we were going to do a little bit different than your typical very buttoned up, very sophisticated type fare. We decided that we wanted to do something that was truly American. So we hosted them at the University of South Carolina football stadium. And we did the light show that you have with the music when the teams run on the field. We had typical Southern fare for them. These were a lot of Germans were in the crowd, so this may be their first exposure to all of that. And we actually found some of the classic Scout vehicles that had been preserved by hobbyists over the years, and we brought those to the football stadium, and they were parked outside when the board members walked in. And it was we felt like that really set us apart. It was a little bit of a gamble because you never know how somebody's going to react to that, but we felt it was worth the risk to try to distinguish ourselves.
Let's hope we won as a state. Let's hope the Gamecocks win as the fall rolls around. Let's hope you put some fairy dust on Williams-Brice Stadium for us Gamecock fans. But you mentioned earlier, Secretary, SC Nexus. New designations, new classifications for our state that some might think are not traditional designations for the state of South Carolina are incredibly exciting. To be one of a few of federally designated tech hubs in the entire country is remarkable, frankly. Can you talk a little bit about what SC Nexus means for our state?
Yeah, so let's go back. SC Nexus is a designated tech hub by the U.S. Department of Commerce. And so what does that mean? Well, under the CHIPS Act, which was a bipartisan bill that was passed by the U.S. Congress in 2022, signed into law, the Department of Commerce was authorized to designate specific areas of our country as tech hubs in 10 key technologies that were critical to the U.S. national security and critical to the U.S.'s economic future, to reestablish U.S. global leadership in these 10 key future technologies. And so the U.S. Department of Commerce solicited applications to be designated as a tech hub. We came together with University of South Carolina, Clemson, the Savannah River National Laboratory, which is we felt was an incredible strength for our application. Not very many states have a national laboratory as part of their state. We had a coalition that included South Carolina State University, which is the state's historically black college, and also has very important key assets. It was supported by our technical colleges, by other HBCUs. We had a coalition of around 40 different entities, including many private companies. We came together to put together this application. We felt that our strengths lay in the energy area. South Carolina has long been very future-leaning in the energy area. We're actually the third highest state in the country in terms of nuclear power, and we have traditionally relied on that, which is of course a very advanced energy source for the state's bulk of the state's power generation capacity. And we of course, the Savannah River Labs has a long history in the nuclear industry, and we have other companies that have been very active in that as well. So we felt like we had a good, strong application, strongly supported by our governor, by our leadership, both at the state and federal level. It's interesting, Governor McMaster, who's a Republican, Lindsey Graham, a well-known Republican senator, and Jim Clyburn, who is a leading Democratic member of Congress, actually had a call with Secretary Raimondo before they announced who was going to be designated. And she said this was the only bipartisan call that she had received from any state. Anyway, so there were around 400 applications for this designation. In the end, the U.S. Department of Commerce selected 31. and we were one of those 31. We are one of only 5 in the industry sector, the energy sector, excuse me, which is incredible. So what that means is the U.S. Department of Commerce has decided that South Carolina has the ability to be recognized as a global leader in the advanced energy area within 10 years. And they're going to support us in our efforts. So we now have a strong ally in the U.S. Department of Commerce, which is fantastic. It's going to mean a lot for our ability to commercialize and bring economic development to this sector. But if you think about what's going on in energy, as the world is moving away from fossil fuels, this is one of the biggest transformations that mankind has faced, since 2 cavemen rubbed sticks together in a cave a while ago, to move away from fossil fuels. And for South Carolina to be right in the middle of that in global leadership is an incredible opportunity that we are truly excited about.
So we are hearing constantly about workforce issues throughout the entire U.S. It's not particular to South Carolina or even the southeastern United States. It just happens to be that business and industry wants to be in the southeastern United States. So workforce, that issue is under a microscope when companies are making site selection decisions. What is our state putting together from a response perspective when it comes to really checking the box on workforce, both now and as companies are making decisions? They're not just looking at now, they're looking well into the future. What are we working on as a state, and maybe who are some of the partners that your agency has been working with to really rectify this issue?
Yeah, so Tushar, this is a great question, and as you mentioned, it's throughout the whole country. It's not unique to South Carolina or the Southeast, but we are in a historically low unemployment time as a state, and so it's important for us to be able to have answers for the businesses that are looking to come here and employ South Carolinians. We're working on several things. Some of it is just the fact that we are in a great state, that people want to come here, and we are actually the fastest growing state in the country in the last year. And so people are moving here, which brings new workers into our state. It's interesting. I was with a county in South Carolina earlier this week, and they were pointing to statistics that showed their population is actually getting younger because of all this inward movement. So that's important. We've built a strong relationship with the military bases here in South Carolina. We are very blessed that we have some tremendous military assets here in our state. And so we've partnered with those bases. Our state has adopted some policies like making military retirement benefits non-taxable that really encourages military veterans to stay in our state. And so we look at our military veteran population as a great population of future workers for our businesses. Military veterans are great employees. We have built some strong relationships, as you mentioned, Tushar, of course, with our technical colleges. They have some global leading programs, well recognized at training workforce so that workers can be productive on day one when they show up at our businesses. Last year, the legislature passed a law that really centralized all of our workforce program responsibilities under the Department of Employment and Workforce. And that is going to bring about some tremendous things, I think, in the future. We've seen some of their plans. So, for example, they're going to have a single website portal where any business in South Carolina can go to and say, I'm looking for workers with these certificates in this area and these age groups or demographics. And it will produce for them a list of all the people that fit that, or the different programs that they can partner with, even down into the K-12 level. So we work very closely with them. We have a strong apprenticeship program here in the state that supports our businesses. It's something that many of the European businesses in our state are very familiar with, and they really have brought to here. But we have over 60,000 apprenticeships that are available to folks here in our state. And it's an incredible program because they can go learn skills, get familiar with the business, with the knowledge that at the end of the program, they're going to have a job waiting for them. So we're very proud of our apprenticeship programs as well. And so we'll continue to work with all of our schools, including our leading universities. Many of our businesses now, with all of the change that's going on, are requiring workers with higher skill sets, higher level of skill sets, familiarity with computer coding and automation and those kind of requirements. And so we're going to need to retool our existing worker base and continue to educate our students with the relevant skill sets so that when they come out of school, there are jobs waiting for them and they could go right into our workforce.
Well, clearly, South Carolina has a lot to brag about, so thank you for coming and sharing all of the good news and all of the preparations that you're making for the future of South Carolina. So thank you so much for taking the rainy walk across the street to come see Tushar and me today.
It's my pleasure, and I will say, in the 2.5 years that I've been here, the greatest joy that I've experienced is really learning the folks that are employed at the South Carolina Department of Commerce. Our team is incredibly dedicated. They are focused on making business better for South Carolina and for our citizens, and they do a fantastic job. They are the epitome of what I call dedicated public servants. So it has really been the most incredible reward for me has been to be able to work with these very dedicated public servants.
And I would echo that. I see that all day, every day. And a lot of it is an extension from you, Secretary Lightsey. And again, thank you for being with us. And thank you for what you do for our state.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time on Project Catalyst. Project Catalyst, an economic development podcast, is a Maynard, Nexsen, and NP Strategy production. To learn more about the podcast and subscribe, visit thecatalystpod.com or find us on your favorite podcast platform.